This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, I'm going to Rav Shabbos Rabbi, but we're approaching the Yom HaGadol v'Hanoira, Yom HaPurim. So, we want to analyze a few things about the Megillah and the Purim story, and I would like, for this year, we want to dedicate this year in honor of a good friend of mine, Rabbi Aaron Subar, who actually is the person who mans the emails for the Maramakoimos. Anybody out there who listens or watching the Shiurim would like to see the sheets that we hand out, you could receive emails at least twice a week of the various Shiurim by emailing Rabbi Glatstein source sheets at Gmail, and this is manned by a good friend of Aaron Subar in Muncie, who very dedicated in being Marbitz Torah in this way. And his son got married this week, so we want to dedicate the Shiur in his honor. And then Mirz Hashem, the Chassan and Kala should have a lot of Simcha Nachas together. Doiris Hashem Vayrachim. And Mirz Hashem, we wish Rabbi Aaron continued bracha v'hatzlacha ad b'yas gal tzedek. Amen. Okay, says the pasuk in Sefer Chagai, Parak Aleph, pasuk Ches, Alu Hahar. Go up the mountain. V'haveisem eitz, bring wood. Uvnu habayis, build the house. This is a great prophecy of rebuilding the second Beis Hamikdash. Ve'eretz seboy, says God, I will find favor with it. Ve'ekavda, Amar Hashem, and I will honor it, says God. However, the word is written ve'ekaved, but it's read ve'ekavda. There's a missing hey in the word ve'ekavda. It says Gemara in Yuma Chaf Aleph Amud Beis Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Inya Ma'idich Se ve'eretz sabay ve'ekaved ve'karina ve'ekavda Ma'ishnad mechusar hey Elu chamisha dvarim shehayu bein mikdash rishon and mikdash sheni. These were the 5 differences between the first Beis Hamikdash and the second. What are they? The Aron with the Kaporos and the Kruvim, number 1. Number 2, the Eish. Number 3, the Shechina. Number 4, Ruach HaKodesh. And number 5, Urim v'Tumim. Now, over the years, we said there's a very easy way to remember this. The mnemonic is Asher, right? Asher. Aleph, Shin, Reish. Urim v'Tumim, Shechina, Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah, but what about Aron and Eish? The word Asher you spell with 3 Alephs, and then you'll definitely remember it. Okay? So, or Roish with 3 Alephs. The 5 differences between Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni.
What's the 5?
What are the 5?
No, the fire.
The fire that came down in Hashemayim was not present in the second Beis Hamikdash. So Rabbi Glatstein, let's try to understand why was it that the second Beis Hamikdash was missing these 5 things. Obviously, these 5 things were 5 displays of Hashem's presence and Hashem's majesty. There was no Aron, there's no Eish, there's no Urim v'Tumim, there's no Shechina, there's no Ruach HaKodesh. How do we understand why these aspects were missing by the Bayis Sheni? There is... Why was there less Kedusha by Bayis Sheni than by Bayis Rishon?
Without a Shechina, what kind of Kedusha did it?
It still had the Shechina. Obviously it had the Shechina. Like the Rambam says, Shechina lo yizaza mikaisam ha'ravi. There was Shechina, but if you look in Shas Tshuva's Binyan Tzion, the first Tshuva, and you look in the writings of the Stipler, there are many levels of Shechina. When we say yes Shechina, no Shechina, here Shechina, there Shechina, there are many levels of Shechina. Obviously there was Shechina, but not fully. One interesting aspect of Megillas Esther, which goes somewhat unnoticed, O Mordechai, Yotzam Lefnei HaMelech, Vosh Malchus, Tcheles V'chor, V'atarazav G'dayla, V'sachich Butz, V'argamon, V'ayir Shushan, Okay, so Mordechai, he's wearing the Levush Malchus. So we don't make anything of it. Mordechai had a day in the sun. He was wearing nice clothing. And Haman was honoring him. But the Medrash takes this very literally. The Medrash says, Mordechai Yatsam Levush Malchus, Rav Pinchas Omer, Melech Mordechai ala Yehudim. Mordechai was a king. Doesn't say for how long. He was the king of the Jews. Maha melech lovesh porphyrin, just like a king wears majestic cloaks. Kach Mordechai lovesh porphyrin. Maha melech oisa atar klub baroisha, just like a king has a crown. Mordechai wore atar zav gedolah. Ma melech emasai al kol haaretz. Mordechai imposed fear on them. Ki nafal pachad Mordechai alehim. That wasn't only on that day. That was at the end of the story. Mordechai was literally the king of the Jews. Ma melech moinita shalech kol haaretz. Just like a king, his coin is minted and goes out to the whole world. Kach Mordechai moinita shaloi haleches. So to Mordechai, his coin was minted and went out to the whole world. What did his coin look like? Uma moinita shaloi. Mordechai mikan ve'ester mikan. Yeah, you want to see? I don't have it, I'm just doing it. Mordechai, what did the coin look like? On one side was a picture of Mordechai, and the other side was a picture of Esther. Lama? Why? Shahaya ish tov, because he was a good guy. Ve'ish shalom, he sought peace. Mevake shalom, shenemar, ki Mordechai ha-Yehudi, mishneh l'melech Achashverosh, v'gadol ha-Yehudim, v'ratzoi l'rov echav, doireish tov la'amoy, v'doiver shalom l'chol zarei. V'olav omar akosov, shemar tam, u're'ei yashar, ki achras l'shem. So what do we see from here? That it wasn't just Mordechai had a day in the sun. He was literally the king of the Jews. He was a melech. And if the Medrash is telling us he was a melech, this is not something insignificant. That means he had the status of a melech. He minted coins. People were afraid of him. Mordechai was literally Melech Yisrael. We know the song, David Melech Yisrael, Mordechai Melech Yisrael. He was the king. And the question is, he was the king for what? What did he need it for? The last thing a God of Israel wants is to be the king. The last thing he would want to do is be a king. That's what you think of God of Israel. Tell Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Reb Chaim, we're here today, we're going to put a crown on your head. We made you the king. Reb Chaim would say, it's not Purim. What are you telling me? No God of Israel wants to be a king. What does it even mean he was the king? Why was he a king? By the way, if you look in the pasuk and you analyze the pasuk carefully, it says, "V'ha'yer Shushan sa'alav esamecha." What were they happy about? They were happy to see Mordechai wearing lavush malchus. Well, why would they care that Mordechai was wearing lavush malchus?
They felt they had a chance of buying shaming.
Why would they care? Mordechai yatzam ne'amelch. The fact what he was wearing, they liked his clothing. Mordechai looking good, and then their life is on the line. They're about to be annihilated, and that's what they're happy about. I mean, the Gezeira is looming. The next day, Vayashem Mordechai el Shar HaMelech, he went back to Sak Va'efer. So you say, no, that's not what they were happy about. They weren't happy that he was wearing Levush Malchus. But that seems to be what the pasuk is saying. Mordechai Yazman Levush Malchus, v'hoyer Shushan Sa'alav Esamecha. This says the Brisker Rav. The simple reading of the pasuk implies that what Klal Yisrael was happy about was that Taka Mordechai was becoming a king. And in fact, if you look in the Shoshanas Yaakov, Tzahalav Esamecha, B'roisam Yachat Chelas Mordechai. In other words, what were they happy about? Why were they Tzahalav Esamecha? They liked what Mordechai was wearing.
It was only for the day. The next day he went back to Sag Va'efer. So it was stuck only for one day.
So why were they happy? What were they so happy about? What were they happy about? Says the Brisker Rav, L'chayra ina kavana asher shushan tzal v'samecha asher Mordechai yalavish b'vash malchus. Are you going to tell me they were happy that Mordechai was wearing the clothing of the king? But you have to say, you read the pasuk, there were two things. First of all, Mordechai was wearing Big Day Malchus. Second of all, they were happy. But, says the Brisker Rav, but from the language of Shoshanas Yaakov, it sure sounds like they were happy that he was wearing Levush Malchus. So Brisker Rav wants to say that on the next pasuk it says, Vayashem Mordechai el Shar HaMelech. The Medrash says he went back to his sak and his tainus. Says the Medrash, anyone who wears sak and fasts will be able to do so until Hashem listens to him. In other words, what do we see from here? That even though he just displayed for at least a day his superiority over Haman, he still returned to his sak va'efer. Because his point was not to demonstrate superiority over Haman, his point was to try to abolish the decree. And therefore, as long as the decree was not abolished, he was not happy. So therefore, when Klal Yisrael saw him go out, b'levush malchus, Klal Yisrael said like this: How could Mordechai take off his levush malchus? He would never take off his levush malchus. In other words, how could Mordechai take off his sak va'efer and put on levush malchus? He would never take off his sak va'efer until Hashem was fulfilling his ratzon. The fact that Mordechai took off the sak va'efer and is wearing different clothing, it must be the Rebbeinu Shalom listen to the tefillah of Mordechai. No, make it quick. Yeah.
I'm going to suggest.
Yeah.
Start off by telling us there were 5 things missing.
Yeah.
In the second best section. Yeah, and the Megillah identifies 5 items of clothing that Mordechai was wearing. Perhaps this is a remez to what the 5 things were missing. And then, why did Mordechai take them off? So Bnei Israel thought that they were going to be, maybe they're going to get exalted to see second base of Mikdash. But Mordechai knew these 5 things were not going to be in the second base of Mikdash.
I don't know.
Does that follow?
Let's see. So here we're trying to understand what were Klal Yisrael so happy about that when they see the levush malchus of Mordechai, why were they happy that he was wearing levush malchus? So Rabbi said this is very important. We find at the end of the Megillah, Ki Mordechai ha-Yehudi Mishnah l'malach Achashverosh v'gadol ha-Yehudim v'ratzoi l'roi v'echav. Most of his brothers found favor with him. Why not everybody? So the Gemara says people had problems with Mordechai. Who had problems with him? The Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin did not agree with what Mordechai did. Says the Gemara Megillah, Daf Tazayin Beis, Ki Mordechai Yehudi Mishnah l'malach Achashverosh v'gadol ha-Yehudim ratzoi v'echav l'roi v'echav l'chol echav melamed shepirshu mimenu miksa Sanhedrin. What? Says the Gemara. You know what you see from here? Learning Torah is greater than saving lives. Why? Because before the Purim story, Mordechai was ranked number 5. In the pasuk it says, Asher Boim Zerubbabel. Who came with Zerubbabel? Yeshua, Nehemiah, Shraya, Ra'alia, Mordechai. Mordechai is ranked number 5. And after the Purim story, Habamim Zerubbabel, Yeshua, Nehemiah, Azariah, Rami, Nechemeni, Mordechai is number 6. What happened? He went down. Went down? Yeah. But he just saved the Jewish people. Unfortunately, he just did a much smaller mitzvah than he could have. He could have been learning. Instead, what? He was only saving lives.
You also put him in jeopardy.
Imagine a guy, he comes late to the shiur. The Rebbe says, where were you? Says there was a guy in danger and I saved his life. The Rebbe says, look, it's a good thing you did. You would have been better off being here in the shiur. Reb Chaim Volozhiner said to the Talmud, where were you? He said, I was saving a life. Reb Chaim says, Nebuch, if only you would have been here in shiur. Learning Torah is better than Hatzos Nefashos. Learning Torah is greater than Hatzos Nefashos. But I have a question. Mordechai also knew that. Why did the Sanhedrin not like Mordechai? Mordechai had to do it. Why would they separate from him? I mean, okay, he wasn't doing a greater mitzvah. What does it mean the Sanhedrin separated from him? Says Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, listen carefully. There is one person who is excluded from being a member of the Sanhedrin. There's only one person. King. A melech. Ein Maman and melech, the Sanhedrin. Mordechai became a king. Mamela, he can't be on the Sanhedrin. They kicked him off. Sorry. You know the whole sugya today, that if Bezin is masaking something, you need a later Bezin, earlier Bezin, greater. Mordechai was out. He's not on the member of the Bezin. Why? Because he became a king. All of this talk about him wearing the Levush Malchus and the Keser Malchus and printing coins and minting coins, Sanhedrin said, get out of here. Get out of town. What is this?
I thought he was just the bottom. Separation of powers.
No. You are a king. You are excluded from being on the Sanhedrin. You can't be here.
He's just on the bottom. On the
Yeah, he was in the bottom ranking Gadol B'Yisrael, but he was off the Sanhedrin entirely.
He was appointed the king by Achashverosh, not by the Yehudim.
Whoever it was, he was praving Malchus. He had this. Yeah, the Medrash said he had the status of a melech. He was minting coins. He was printing coins. He was wearing royal clothing. He was imposed. No, Ki Gadol Mordechai. Ki Mordechai emosa aleim, ki nafal pachad Mordechai aleim. He was acting like a king. He said, "We thought you were a gadol. Today I'm a king. I'm a king now." Says the Rebbe Glatstein. Look how great limud Torah l'shma is, where you become a member of Hashem's malchus. Talmud Torah is even greater than Atzalas Nefashos. Aval Yadua, how he says, why was Mordechai only Ratzai l'roi v'echav? Chazal say, Chas v'shalom, Mordechai is separated even 1 second from Torah. But we know the Medrash says Mordechai Yatzim Pnei HaMelech, he became a king. He printed coins. He minted coin. One side was Mordechai, the other side was Esther. Ve'ein Moshivin Melech v'Sanhedrin, and therefore the Sanhedrin separated from him. But Rabbi said, here's $1 million question. Mordechai, as a Gadol B'Yisrael, knows that a Gadol B'Yisrael is not somebody who shows up at public events and sits there proper, and he steps up to the podium invoking the proper incantations. That's nonsense. He understands, Ein kavod ela kavod chachamim yinchalu. You think Mordechai fell for the glamour and the attraction of the limelight of being a melech? What do you need it for? You think he needed it? Says Rabbi Glatstein, and this is a new understanding of the development of the Purim story. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin like this. Look at number 10. Tanya Rabbi Yossi Omer. Shalosh mitzvos nitztavu Yisrael b'knisasan la'aretz. 3 mitzvos we were commanded when we entered Eretz Yisrael. Number 1, lahamid lahem melech. Number 1, you have to make a king. Number 2, lahachris zaroi shel Amalek. You need to destroy Amalek. Number 3, live noislam beis habechira. You need a king. You need to destroy Amalek. You need to build a Beis HaMikdash. What's the order? You need Melech, destroy Amalek, Beis HaMikdash. Ve'eni yadizim tchila, kishu oimer ki yad al keis ka milchama shem Amalek, hava oimer lahem lamelech tchila, ki yad al keis ka. First, you need someone on the kisei. Without any drashas that Hashem's throne is not complete. Simply the pasuk means you need a melech on the kisei malchus, and only then could you destroy Amalek. Ve'ein kisei el hamelech, shenemar vayoshelem kisei Hashem. So we know step 1 is you need a melech. Now what comes first, Beis HaMikdash or destroy Amalek? Then it says v'haniach, right? V'haniach Hashem, right? V'haniach lachem mikol avechem misaviv. Sorry. Timcha. Then v'haya ha'makom asher yivchar Hashem. When God gives you respite from Amalek, then you build the Beis HaMikdash. Omer lahachar zar shel Amalek tchila. V'chein David, when David was sitting on his throne, and he destroyed Amalek, and then he built the Beis HaMikdash. This is the order of operations throughout history. Number 1, you need Melech. Number 2, you need to destroy Amalek. Number 3, you need to build the Beis HaMikdash. The Purim story, the Megillah begins that Achashverosh is celebrating the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Now, why Achashverosh is so hooked up and hung up on the Beis HaMikdash, we're not going to discuss that today. Why he cares, why he would make a party that the Beis HaMikdash is not standing, we're not discussing that. But obviously, he cares deeply that the Beis HaMikdash is not standing. That's how the whole story opens up. He takes out the candle of the Beis HaMikdash and he parties. Why Achashverosh why is he elevating Haman? You think Haman was a nice guy? I guarantee you Haman smelled from disgustingness. Haman was a lowlife. What did Achashverosh want from Haman? The answer is, you know what Achashverosh understands? One thing he wants. He doesn't want the Beis HaMikdash rebuilt. And as long as Amalek is in the world, Beis HaMikdash cannot be rebuilt. And therefore he promotes Haman, because he knows Haman will be the sharpest thorn in the sides of the Jews. He doesn't like Haman, he doesn't like his nose, he doesn't like his hat. One thing he likes is that as long as Haman is in power, they cannot rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. So the first thing Achashverosh does, he parties, there's no Beis HaMikdash, and he elevates Haman. Mordechai knows, though, that the 70 years are coming up. And he knows, and he has hope, and he remembers the prophecy of Chagai to rebuild the second Beis HaMikdash. And as important as it is to have Talmidei Chachamim, and not as important, that's the most important thing.
You need a melech.
But in order to have a bayasheni, you need a melech. And when he sees Achashverosh putting the crown on his head and giving him the royal clothing, Mordechai feels in some way he is halachically taking on the stature of Melech Yisrael. The same way, even before David, Shaul was the Melech. Shaul tries to destroy Amalek. He didn't do such a good job. That's why he couldn't build a Beis HaMikdash. Why was there no Beis HaMikdash remain Shaul? He was a Melech, he destroyed Amalek, but he left over some Chevra, so there's no Beis HaMikdash. Mordechai understands that to rectify the sin of Shaul, he'll become Melech. The 75,000 people they wiped out, they're all Amalekim. The 500 people they wiped out, they're all Amalekim. Mordechai is the Melech, wipe out Amalek, let's build a Beis HaMikdash. Says Rabbi Yonasan Eibish, let's look at number 11. V'hu ki amru, shloisha mitzvahs nesava yisabach nisas l'aaretz. Here's the order. Number 1, Melech. Number 2, destroy Amalek. Number 3, build a Beis HaMikdash. Why can't you have a Beis HaMikdash if Amalek's around? Because the Beis HaMikdash is the throne of Hashem. And God's throne cannot be complete so long as Amalek's in the world, right? Ki yod al kes kav, right? Case and not kisei. Ka and not Yerkevavke. Ein Hashem Shalem, Ein Akisei Sham, calls man that Amalek's in the world. Look at these words. Rabbi Yonasan Eibish says, Go'oinas. Ulakach Rishon, Hechnia, Shaul Amalek. Shaul destroys Amalek. And then David builds the Beis HaMikdash. Same thing by Bayasheni. Especially according to the man that Amar Kitcha Rishayna, Kitcha L'Shaita, V'lai Kitcha L'Asid and Ezra is coming to be Mekadesh again. So first they had to destroy Amalek and be Mekakea Beit Sasam, uproot their source. Rabbi say, Kairesh in the beginning of Sefer Ezra gives a command, go up and build a Beis HaMikdash. And what happened? They didn't do it. They couldn't do it. There was instigation. Who instigated? Someone wrote a sitna. The Bnei Haman. They wrote a sitna. Why were they not successful in rebuilding Beis HaMikdash when Kairesh gave permission to rebuild it? Because Amalek's still around. Amalek is still frolicking. If Amalek's in the world, you can't build a Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, in the days of curse, they didn't build it. Even though there was a Pekida, because Amalek was not destroyed. But in the days of Mordechai and Esther, then Amalek was cut off. In Kemat, they were annihilated completely. So now the sparks and the glimmer of the Beis HaMikdash begin to shine. And it only took a year or two to build the Beis HaMikdash. And Achashverosh knew all this. He knew the main thorn in the side of the Jews is Amalek. And therefore the first thing he does is he elevates Haman. What is Achashverosh? He's a Persian. What does he got to do with Amalek? The answer is Achashverosh knows that Malchus Paras will only retain their power as long as the Beis HaMikdash is not built. So Rabbi said, let's analyze something, and then I want to show you an amazing thing. By the way, it's interesting, let's point out, that it happens to be that whose mitzvah is it to destroy Amalek? Right, we're saying the order is appoint a king, destroy Amalek, and then build the Beis HaMikdash. The sheet of the Sefer Yereim, Rabbi Lezer Mimitz, look at number 18. He brings in from Parshas Kiseitze, B'haya, B'haniach, Hashem HaGam Mikol, Evach Misavif, Timcha Zecha Amalek, Loi Tishkach. He quotes the Gemara in Sanhedrin, the 3 mitzvahs. Lamadnu mikan she mitzvah limcha zecha Amalek al HaMelech. The mitzvah's on the king. There's no mitzvah for an ordinary citizen to go around with a BB gun and start shooting Amalekim. The mitzvah is on the king. By the way, the Ramban also teaches the pasuk ki yad al kes ka. He says on like the 6th line, v'yesh mefarshim ki kashatia yad al kisei Hashem. When there's a power on the throne of Hashem, tiyam melchama Hashem Amalek. V'ha'inyan, when there's a melech b'Yisrael, Yoshev al Akisei, only he will destroy Amalek. By the way, the Sefer Achinuch argues on this sheet. The Sefer Achinuch says it's a mitzvah al kol yachid v'yachid. See, it's a mitzvah al kol yachid v'yachid. But Lamaisa, practically speaking, it's only really available when Yadeinu Tkifa, when there's a melech. But even conceptually, many Rishonim say it's a mitzvah that's mutal on the melech. Mamela, look in number 14. It's a pasuk we learn by a tainus. We say, Tachas hanatzutz in place of the thorn, Yala Veroish, will arise the cypress. Tachas Hasirpad, in the place of the thistle, Yala Hadas, will arise a myrtle. V'hayol Hashem l'shem, and then God will have a name. Says the Gemara in Megillah Daf Yudam and Beis, Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni, Pasach la Pischa l'hai Parsha Samehacha. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni, when he would start darshaning the Megillah, he would darshan from this pasuk. Who's the thorn? Who's the cypress? Who's the thistle? Who's the myrtle? The thorn is Haman. And who's the cypress? Mordechai. Who's the thistle? Vashti. Who is the myrtle? Esther. What is the name? Mikra Megillah is God's name. In other words, when Haman and Vashti fall, Mordechai and Esther ascend, God's name will be elevated. Says the Nesivos HaMishpah in his Hakdama to Megillah, why did Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni begin his introduction to Megillah with this Hakdama? By the way, in Masechet Megillah, there are 13 Hakdamas to the Megillah that 13 different Tanam and Amram would give. Says the Nesivos, his point was, as long as Amalek's in the world, God's name is not complete. And it's impossible for us to have a salvation. That is why before we build a Beis HaMikdash, we must destroy Amalek. Now, says in the Nesivos, a principle in nature and in history. Before anyone has a downfall, they always have a surge. For example, a candle, before it goes out, it flickers, but then it goes out. Historically also, anytime a nation has a downfall, it has a tremendous ascension, and then it disappears. Therefore, listen carefully. In order for us to build a Beis HaMikdash, who needs to be destroyed? Amalek. That's why the salvation of the Jewish people is the ascension of Haman. Why? Because before something is destroyed, it needs to have a surge. Before something is destroyed, it needs to have a surge. So, right, the question is, why do we have to read about Haman's ascension? What does it have to do with the Purim story? No! This is going to bring about his downfall. So the whole Yeshua of Purim is, Haman has an aliyah, and what? And then he has his downfall. And that's why he brings down, the end of the story is V'hayal Hashem L'Shem, that the Megillah brings about the fulfillment of God's name, that God's name is fulfilled with the downfall of Amalek. So Rabbi Glatstein, I want to tell you something very interesting. Look at number 17. Rav David Tevel was a Talmud of Rav Chaim Volozhiner, the author of Nachlas David, right? So you have the Vilna Gaon. His primary disciple was Chaim Volozhiner, and Rav Chaim Volozhiner had a student, Rav David Tevel, the Nachlas David. Now the Nachlas David's commentary on Shas is well known, but he also wrote drashos, like drashos Nachlas David. It has not been available for many years. One time, actually, it's on HebrewBooks.org. A good friend of mine, Rav Daniel Stam, sent me a photocopy, a very beautiful version of the original Nachlas David, his drashos. But recently, they reprinted the drashos Nachlas David as well as the drashos Beis David in Mossad Rav Kook print. Beautiful edition, and we have it on the sheet here for the first time. Says the drashos Beis David in Drush Yud. Says a beautiful thing. In order to understand the story, you need to know three things. That when we enter Eretz Yisrael, there's a three-step process. King, destroy Amalek, build the Beis HaMikdash.
Obviously, Mordechai didn't destroy all Amalek either, right?
Why?
Still have Mordechai.
But Kemat, says Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, Kemat, he wiped them all out. But he left the king. Says the Beis David. What does this mean? He says in the second paragraph, Ulam amitas kavanasam bezel liyas kisholosh mitzvahs elah hima misachtim umiskashim b'tuim zeh. The three mitzvahs: make a king, destroy Amalek, build a Beis HaMikdash, are dependent one on each other. There are three steps that are intertwined. Ki lo yitachin binyan Beis HaBachirim lo yukdam lo reishis mechias Amalek. You can't have a Beis HaMikdash that Amalek's around. Why? Because the Beis HaMikdash is the throne of God. there is where God is revealed to the whole world. Like, it's well known, the Mishnah says, there were 10 miracles that took place in the Beis HaMikdash every day. So you can't have revelation of God without destruction of Amalek, because Amalek is Milchama L'Hashem Amalek. And God's name is not complete if Amalek's in the world. And you can't destroy Amalek without a Melech. Why? Like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, a Beis HaMikdash cannot be destroyed. Right? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, when he met Vespasian, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, Shalom Alecha Melech. So he said, I'm not a Melech. He said, yeah, you have to be a Melech. It says, V'halavanon ba'adir yipo, v'ein adir el Melech, shenemar. He brought a Mariah from a pasuk. So if you need a Beis HaMikdash to be destroyed through a Melech, you need a Beis HaMikdash to be built by a Melech, and you need Amalek to be destroyed by a Melech. Says the Beis David in the next paragraph, look at this, Dvarim Ayumim, listen to this. V'kacha hayu hadvarim kisidron b'inyan Bayis Rishon. This was the order of operations by Bayis Rishon. First, Shaul was the Melech. He was designated to destroy Amalek. Like it says in Bereshis Rabbah, by the way, Amalek needs a descendant of Rachel to destroy Amalek. Malchus Beis David can't destroy Amalek. You need Ein Amalek Noifel Elo B'Yad Zara Sharachah Shenemrim Lo Yischavam Tzirei Hatzayin. You need the youngest descendant, which is Binyamin. And Shaul, who's from Sheva Binyamin, Rachel, he was designated. And after he wiped out Amalek, pretty much David was able to seal the deal, because David can't do the main job, but he could finish it off. But even when David finished the deal, says the Beis David, he had to summon descendants of Rachel to wipe out the remaining ones, and only then the Beis HaMikdash was built. Now here's the punchline. Ukamai came b'binyan b'yasheni. First, Mordechai had an aliyah. Nisgadel Mordechai. Ad heyosei kemat melech. He was almost like a melech. Like Chazal say about the godless of Mordechai, that he was kemat a melech. Why are Chazal telling us he minted coins? You think the Gadol Hadar has time to mint coins? This kind of coin, that kind of coin. Hey, you want to see my coin collection? He's minting coins because he has to establish his credentials as a melech in order to properly wipe out Amalek.
Is he from Rachel?
Yes. Ishimini. Ben Yamin. Ben Kish, right? And then Esther was able to wipe it out because Esther was a Malka. You say, what a terrible life this Esther had. She was taken into the palace and abused by Achashverosh. Nebuch, poor girl. It was. But it was necessary. Because she had to have the status of Malka in order to be overseeing the destruction of Amalek. It had a halachic credibility to it. All the 75,000 people mentioned in Esther, Tes, Barak, Tezayin, they're all from Zerah Amalek. Look in Targum Yonasan. And only then they were able to build the second Beis HaMikdash. But says the Beis David an amazing thing. The Malchus of Mordechai and Esther was not like the Malchus of Shaul. Shaul was really a melech. He was given Malchus by Klal Yisrael. His Malchus had much more halachic stature to it, and that's why the Bayis Rishon had much greater spiritual grandeur. But, please turn off your phone. But, says the Beis David, the Malchus of Mordechai and Esther was much less than Shaul. Because Mordechai wasn't a real king. He was only Mishneh LaMelech Achashverosh. And Esther was not a real Malka. She was just Malka to Achashverosh. And she never ruled over the Jewish people. And she's only a Malka. She's not a Melech. And that's why they were not entirely successful in wiping out Amalek. Shaul was a real Melech. He basically wiped them out except for one person, and David finished them off. But Mordechai and Esther, one's ability to destroy Amalek emanates from Malchus, and their Malchus was incomplete. Once their Malchus was incomplete, their destruction of Amalek was incomplete. By the time of Shaul and David, they basically wiped out Amalek, if not for the fact that Rebbe Shalom wanted there to be some Amalek left. Times of Mordechai and Esther, Shvach HaMaisos. Why? Why was it Shvach HaMaisos? They couldn't find? No, it wasn't they couldn't find. The ability to destroy Amalek emanates from Malchus, and their Malchus was only, Mordechai was Ke'ein Melech. I mean, he was minting coins, and he imposed fear, but it wasn't full. That's why Bayis Sheni was even less than Bayis Rishon. This is very key. Lakach Bayis Sheni Ketana Me'er Kedush Bayis Rishon. And that's why Bayis Sheni was missing 5 things that Bayis Rishon didn't have. That was symbolic of the fact that Amalek wasn't completely destroyed, which is symptomatic of the fact that the Malchus was not on the same level as by Bayis Rishon. So that's an amazing thought and a very fundamental idea, that if you want to know the process of Jewish ascension, you need Melech, you destroy Amalek, and only then you can have Binyan Beis HaMikdash. By the way, says the Beis David, by Bayis Rishon, Bayis Sheni, the Mechias Amalek was not complete, and that's why ultimately the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, because God's name is only as complete as to the extent that Amalek is obliterated. But L'aseh Lavai, we're going to wipe out Amalek completely. How? See, that's why you need Mashiach ben Yosef. What Shevet is Mashiach ben Yosef? Rachel. He's going to wipe out Amalek. And then Mashiach ben David will be able to build the Beis HaMikdash. Comes the Brisker Rav. Brisker Rav was Medayek. And he didn't want to say it because he didn't understand. Mordechai Yatzel of Nei HaMelech B'Vush Malchus. V'Yer Shushan Salav V'Samecha. And Brisker Rav was bothered. Klal Yisrael would be happy because Mordechai is wearing Big Day Malchus? No, it can't be. These must be 2 independent clauses. But he said, but from the Shoshanas Yaakov, it's mashma that the great simcha of Klal Yisrael came when V'roisam Yachad Tchelas Mordechai. Why were they so happy when they saw Tchelas Mordechai? The answer is when Klal Yisrael began to recognize that the Malchus of Klal Yisrael was being restored, especially in Tchelas. Tchelas doime leyam, yam doime l'rakia, rakia doime lekisei hakavod. So now they see the kisei hakavod is being fulfilled slightly in the Malchus of Mordechai. So now they realize they have a shot of unseating Haman and ultimately building the Beis HaMikdash. But we should be zoicha to the complete annihilation of Haman and the annihilation of all disturbances in the Shiur and the Bias Goel Tzedek and Herav Yameinu. Love.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.